I didn't sell my body. I sold my time. For a price. He had billions. I had boundaries. I thought I'd be gone after one conversation. But the man who never heard no wasn't ready for me. This isn't a love story. It's the story of power shifting hands. If you've ever underestimated your own worth, keep watching. This isn't about him. This is about you and how much you bring to the table, even when they only see the surface. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're ready to own your voice and flip the script on your story. You ever get to a point where you're just done? Not the kind of done where you need a nap or a vacation. I mean done with people underestimating you, with working twice as hard to be seen half as much, with smiling through things that don't deserve your grace. That kind of done. That's where I was. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't play the game for a while. I did. I climbed the ladder, did the meetings, wore the blazer, faked the small talk. And for what? A little more money? A title change? Some old man calling me articulate, like it's a compliment? Nah, I knew I was smart, always have been. But being smart and being free, those are two different fights. So I quit. Quietly. No big announcement. No dramatic post about choosing peace. Just silence. I started consulting, freelance stuff, strategy, branding, human behavior, the kind of work where people pay for your brain and not your obedience. Some weeks I made a lot, some weeks I didn't. But every week I chose me. I picked my clients like I picked my playlist, intentionally. If you didn't respect my boundaries or value my time, you didn't get access. It wasn't glamorous, not at first. I had ramen days, rent stress, that anxious shuffle between I got this and what if I don't. But even when it was shaky, it was mine. My rules, my voice. No more explaining my tone. No more shrinking myself to fit someone else's comfort zone. And just when things started feeling steady, I got a message that would flip everything upside down. I didn't know it yet, but my time, my presence, was about to become the most expensive thing in a billionaire's world. At first, I almost deleted it. The email looked like spam. Short subject line, no company branding, just private strategy request. It came through my contact form, timestamped 2:07 a.m. Normally, I don't even open stuff that hits me in the middle of the night. But something about it was too clean, too intentional. So I clicked. The body of the message was even weirder. Discreet consulting session requested, one-on-one, in person, 3 hours, your rate, your rules, no follow-up unless mutually agreed. That was it. No signature, no intro, just a number, $15,000. Up front. Now, I'm not new to oddball inquiries. I've had rappers slide into my DMs asking for brand direction, which is usually code for help me not look like a fool. But this was different. Too precise to be a joke. Too vague to be real. I sat with it for a minute, Googled the domain. That's when I saw the name. I won't say it, but if I did, you'd know it. Household name. Billionaire. Magazine covers. Tech world titan. The kind of man who's used to snapping his fingers and getting the world to lean in. And here he was, asking to buy my time. I won't lie, I laughed, out loud, because the idea of him, of all people, needing to pay someone just to talk, it sounded like ego rehab. But then I paused. I thought, what does a man with everything really want from a stranger like me? So I replied. Politely, doubled the rate, set my boundaries. I figured if it was real, he'd walk away. People like him aren't used to hearing no dressed as confidence, but he didn't walk. He wired the full amount within the hour. That's when I knew this wasn't business as usual. This was something else entirely. We went back and forth for 2 emails. I kept it short, professional. No small talk. I told him my conditions. 3 hours in public, no recording, no NDA. If I got even a whiff of anything shady, I'd walk and keep the fee. He didn't argue. He just responded with one sentence. Your car arrives Thursday at 10 a.m. The car, a black SUV with no logo, tinted windows, driver in a suit. No questions, no conversation, just silence and luxury. I sat in the back seat like I'd done it before, even though my palms were sweating like hell. I kept telling myself, he's just a man. You've dealt with worse. But something about this felt like stepping into someone else's movie. He flew me out on a private jet. No joke. Just me, a crew member, and a perfectly plated breakfast I didn't touch. The whole flight, I stared out the window trying to figure out what exactly I'd agreed to. Was this consulting? Therapy ? Curiosity? A power play? When I landed, another car was waiting. It took me to a penthouse suite, not cold, but not warm either. Clean lines, quiet wealth. And there he was, standing by the window like some scene from a prestige drama. He didn't offer a handshake, just looked at me for a second too long and said, I appreciate you coming. I sat. He sat. And then, nothing. Just air between us. I waited. He finally said, I don't need you to agree with me. I need you to be honest with me. I raised an eyebrow. Honest? I've been paid to pitch, to package, to persuade, but never just to tell the truth. That's when I realized I wasn't here because I had answers. I was here because no one else told him the truth. That first session was strange, not uncomfortable, just unusual. He didn't come at me with a list of questions or a business proposal. Instead, he just talked. About systems, about legacy, about how people only ever tell him what they think he wants to hear. I listened, nodded occasionally, but mostly, I observed. His energy was calculated, like everything about him had been rehearsed for years. Even the way he paused between sentences felt like performance, but there was something else beneath it, something hollow, like a man who'd been powerful for so long, he'd forgotten how to be seen without the title. He asked me what I thought of people like him. I didn't hesitate. Told him, you're used to winning rooms with your money. But power without presence? That's just noise. I waited for pushback, ego, anything. But he just blinked, like no one had ever told him that out loud. We talked for 3 hours straight. No script, no notes. Just raw, strange honesty. I didn't flatter him. I didn't try to impress him. I just told him what I saw. He watched me like I was holding up a mirror he wasn't ready for, but couldn't look away from either. When it ended, I stood up, thanked him, and walked out. He didn't try to extend the meeting or negotiate another hour. He just said, let me know if you're open to another session. Back in the car, I sat there in silence, processing not just the conversation, but the energy. He wasn't buying strategy, he was buying clarity, and maybe, in a world where everything bore to his name, that was the one thing he couldn't manufacture. He thought he'd hired a consultant. What he got was a mirror, and I knew right then, this wasn't the last time we'd speak. It turned into a rhythm. Every couple of weeks, I'd get a quiet message from his assistant, never him directly, asking for another session. Same setup, same fee. Always wired in full before I showed up. I kept thinking the novelty would wear off for him, that he'd get bored once he realized I wasn't here to stroke his ego or play into whatever role he'd imagined for me. But no, he kept calling. Each time the conversations got deeper, not more dramatic, just more real. We talked about capitalism, loneliness, race, silence, love. He'd say things like, I've built everything I was told would make me matter. Why don't I feel it? I didn't have all the answers, but I wasn't afraid to sit in the question with him. That's what he paid me for. Presence, not performance. And let me be clear, I never once dressed up for him. I wore what I wanted, sometimes jeans, sometimes sweats, sometimes a simple dress. Nothing curated, nothing cute for him, just me, existing on my terms. And every time I walked in, I could feel the tension in him, like he'd been holding his breath between our sessions. The wildest part. I never flirted, never leaned into any romantic energy, but I could see it in his eyes. He was hooked. Not on me, the idea of me, the freedom I walked in with. I was the only person in his life who didn't need a damn thing from him, and that messed with him more than he let on. He once told me, "You're the most expensive piece I've ever bought." And I smiled, because I knew exactly what he meant. I wasn't selling seduction. I was selling stillness. I didn't need him. That's what made him stay. It started to shift. Subtly at first, he'd text instead of having his assistant schedule. Then he'd linger longer after our sessions, walking me to the car, asking questions that felt less strategic and more personal. Do you ever get tired of being so strong? What's something you've never told anyone? I'd dodge most of them because that wasn't the deal, but I noticed the change. He wasn't just trying to understand the world anymore. He was trying to understand me. Then came the first delay. Payment didn't hit my account like clockwork. Not late enough to raise a red flag, but enough for me to notice. I gave it a day, then another. Finally, I texted, "Is there an issue?" He replied, "No issue. I just wanted to hear from you." That pissed me off. Not because of the money, because of the assumption. Like I'd chase him, like the power balance had quietly tilted in his favor. I called him. No pleasantries. Just truth. You pay me for my time, not my attention. Don't blur the lines. He was quiet. Then he said, "I didn't mean to cross one." I replied, "You don't have to mean it to do it." That was the first real crack in his armor. The first time he didn't try to defend himself. Just listened. And in that silence, I felt something click. He wasn't trying to control the situation anymore. He was reacting to it. Reacting to me. From that point on, things changed. He started asking if I was okay. Not in a creepy way, but like someone who actually cared. He remembered little things I said weeks ago. Brought up books I mentioned. I could feel it happening. He wasn't paying for time anymore. He was investing in presence. Mine. There was one session that still sits heavy in my chest. Different from the rest. He was already seated when I walked in, staring out the window like he was somewhere else entirely. Normally he stood to greet me. Not this time. No coffee waiting, no usual banter, just silence. I sat down slowly, didn't say anything. I've learned, sometimes presence says more than questions ever could. A few minutes passed before he spoke. His voice was lower than usual. He told me his mother had passed the week before. No public funeral, no press release. Just gone. Quietly. And he'd been holding it in because he didn't know how to feel it. Said grief felt inefficient. I didn't offer condolences. I didn't say, "I'm sorry." I just said, "She didn't raise a robot." That cracked something in him. Not a dramatic breakdown, just softening. Like the tight grip he had on himself loosened, just for a second. He told me he hadn't cried. Not once. That people around him acted like he was the one who had to comfort them. I asked him, "Do you think being strong means being numb?" He looked at me like I'd asked the one question he didn't have an answer for. I didn't touch him, didn't lean in. I just stayed. That was the most powerful thing I could have done in that moment. Not try to fix it, just be there. For 3 hours we didn't talk strategy or power. We talked about regret, about silence, about how money can't teach you how to feel. When I left, he didn't walk me out. He just whispered, "Thank you." And I realized this wasn't just about connection anymore. This man, with all his wealth and control, was unraveling. And somehow, I'd become his safe place. A week later, I got a message that wasn't like the others. No assistant, no appointment request, just him. It said, "I'd like to offer you something more permanent. A role, a place in my world. He attached a proposal, advisory title, equity, travel, full discretion. And then at the bottom, just one line. I want you closer. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I was tempted by the offer, though on paper it was generous. It was because I knew exactly what it meant. This wasn't just a business move. This was him trying to make me fit into his world, to fold something rare and real into his empire so he could keep it nearby. I thought about what that would mean, living in rooms where my voice would always be questioned, navigating boardrooms where my presence would be a political statement, not a human right. I thought about what it would cost, my boundaries, my quiet, my freedom. And suddenly, it didn't feel like an opportunity. It felt like a golden cage. So I said no. He didn't respond for 3 days. And when he finally did, he simply wrote, "You're the only thing I can't buy." There was no anger in it, just acceptance, a kind of sorrow that came from realizing some things were never meant to be owned. That was the last session. No dramatic goodbye, no closure. Just the quiet understanding between two people who crossed paths at the exact moment they needed something real. But only one of us knew how to walk away. He wanted to keep me, but I was never his to keep. I wasn't his healer, his muse, or his escape. I was a mirror, and eventually, even mirrors walk away when they're no longer seen. It's been a year since I last saw him. No calls, no texts. Just space, and I've stayed silent, not out of secrecy, but out of peace. Some stories don't need to be shared until they're finished growing inside you, and for a while, I wasn't ready to say what this really meant. See, people always ask what it's like to be in a room with power, to sit across from someone who can change the world with one decision. But no one asks what it's like when power looks back at you, searching for something it can't name. What it's like to be seen so deeply that even you start to question what you carry. He taught me something without meaning to, that no amount of money, success, or reach can fill the parts of you that only presence can touch. That sometimes, the thing people crave the most isn't access, it's authenticity. And once they feel it, they'll do anything to keep it close, even if they never truly understand it. But me, I walked away more whole than I walked in. Not richer, not in the way he measured, but clearer. I realized my value never lived in how much someone would pay for my time. It lived in the fact that I don't need to be bought at all. I've gone back to choosing my clients, choosing myself, and now, when I walk into a room, I don't shrink, I don't explain, I don't wait to be invited. I arrive, fully, because I know who I am without the paycheck, without the title, without the validation. And if you've ever felt invisible or underestimated, I want you to remember this. Your presence is the gift, your clarity is the power, and your peace, that's the prize no one else can afford. Power isn't about money. It's about knowing when to walk away. If you've ever thought you had to settle for less, remember this: your time, your voice, your presence is the room. Share this video if you're reclaiming your time, and follow for more stories that flip the power dynamic.